In this video, we'll be looking at how to use Jamovi to look at summary statistics and graphs for some different variables, both categorical and quantitative. We're going to look first at opening up a data set. So up in the corner, we'll select these three little lines. We'll click open, and then you can browse on your computer where you're going to find your data set. So all your folders should be here, and I'm going to open up this Stat 145 student data, which is just some data collected from students many semesters ago. Once you've done that, your data set should appear here in the program. To look at graphs and summary statistics, we're going to use this exploration option up in the upper left corner, and we're going to click on descriptives. Once we've done that, you can see our variables have been populated here for us, and we can select which ones we want and then put them in the variables box. It will default to looking at quantitative data, so what we're going to want to do is change up what we look at. The variable I'm going to look at first is grade. This is a categorical variable, which is grade classification of freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, coded as 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to put that in the variable box, and we don't really care about all this stuff here because not all of it is relevant to a categorical variable. So I'm going to get rid of things like mean, median, standard deviation, minimum, and maximum. And also, I'm not going to get rid of the missing. So really, right, all it tells us now is we had 51 people in the data set. What we care about more for this type of variable is frequency tables, which will tell us how many we have in each category, 28 freshmen, 15 sophomores, and so on, and then what percentage that would be, or that would be our sample proportion if we'd write it as like 0.549, 0.843. For a graph, what we can look at then, scrolling down over here under plots, if we open up the plots part, is we could look at a bar plot. And so when we select bar plot, you can see then that is a visual of what we were seeing for those counts there. So we can see that the highest percentage is the freshmen, followed by the sophomores, then actually seniors with juniors last. Any of the things that we have open in here for graphs or tables, if you select them, you see it highlights. So if you're on a PC and you right click, you can click copy. It will then copy that to the clipboard and you can paste that into a document then. Same with tables. You can see you could copy this table into a document. Now, one thing we might want to do is take this a step further and combine another variable with grade. And what I'm going to do for that is in the split by up at the top, I'm going to split it according to whether or not the students live in the dorms. What that's done then is it's taken our table and split it into yes or no for living in the dorms. 1 is yes, 2 is no. So for those freshmen, 27 live in the dorms, 1 does not. Sophomores, 4 live in the dorm, 11 do not, and so on. And then we can see what we have for our graph is a clustered bar graph, where we've taken the grade classifications and we've split them into two colors, the blue being our 1, that is yes, they live in the dorms, and then 2 being no, they do not. And so we can see that trend that for the freshmen, they mostly live in the dorms, for the seniors, they mostly do not live in the dorms. Next, what we're going to do is move on to looking at some quantitative variables. What I'll do is just click Exploration Descriptives again, and that will kind of reset everything for us. And so we're in this new blank space. For the quantitative variables, what we're going to look at is the variable cavities, which is how many cavities the students reported having in their lifetime. I will put that under variables. This is what it will default to automatically giving you. Under statistics, you can change up again what you want in that table. Maybe we don't care about the missing values if there were any. And maybe we want extra stuff, like we want the interquartile range or the IQR. So you can do different check boxes and get that different information appearing here for your variable you're looking at. Then under plots, some options that we might do for a quantitative variable would be something like a box plot. Here is our box plot of cavities. It will default to labeling the outliers. So this 36 next to that outlier is telling us that's the 36th observation in the data set. So you could go back and look at row 36 to see what that looked like. We can get where the median is at this bar here. We can get the shape of the data, all those sort of things we've talked about. You can also check the box for mean, and it will put the mean as a little black dot or box on top of the box plot. So then you could compare the mean and the median, with the mean being the dot, the median being that line. And we can compare them up in the output as well. If we go and look here, we can see the mean was 3.45 and the median was 3. So the mean got inflated a little above the median, likely due to that outlier on the high end. If you want the data also on the plot, you can click data and it will have either the option of jittered or stacked. And so that's just another visual to get the data on top of the plot if you would like that, but that's not necessary. We could also look at a histogram. If we click the histogram button, and here's our histogram of cavities, seeing sort of that same trend we're seeing in the box plot with that right skew and that outlier at the value of 20. And next what I want to do is reset things again. And actually, no, what we'll do is we'll reset it. So we'll reset, do fresh here. And what we're going to do now for the variable is let's look at sleep that students get, which is how many hours they report getting on a typical weekday. And what we're going to do is split that according to another categorical variable. And so I'm going to get rid of some of this extra stuff just so we don't have such busyness going on. We'll just keep mean, median, and standard deviation. And let's split that according to whether or not the students live in the dorms. So we're going to take this quantitative variable of sleep and split it into the two categories. So what we're seeing then is we have for dorms, 1 is yes, 2 is no. We have 32 students and then 19 that don't live in the dorms. We can compare the means for the two groups, 7.41 to 7.11. So very similar, just a little lower for the no, and the same with the median. What we can look at then, if we do our box plot, is it will automatically provide us with side-by-side box plots. So we'll have a box plot for group 1 and a box plot for group 2. And so this would be a visual way to look at, do they have similar centers, similar spreads, similar shapes, all of those sort of ways that we can look at comparing this quantitative variable of sleep according to a categorical variable of whether or not they live in the dorms.